let's get into, let's be frank, Lisa, it's our favorite segment of Attacking Third, right next to any time that we get to talk about winners and losers. We get it, we enjoy, we lean into that a little bit. And if it's not us talking about defense, and talking about how much we love it, we love talking about some winners and some losers. And a cool thing about this is we're also going to get a chance to maybe talk about some matches that we were telling folks to keep an eye on this weekend, in particular maybe teams to keep an eye on this weekend. And we got to start with this OL Reign versus Angel City win 2-1 in this one. A lot of big things coming out of this one. It was all rain, quick turnaround for this team, right? We talked about when we did the massive preview. This was one of the teams that we knew was going to have a couple of games in a short amount of time, and it maybe impacted our picks a little bit. We were a little curious how this team was going to look with player rotation, coming off an international window, the quick turnaround. Bull Rain came out here and they got their business taken care of. A 2-1 win over Angel City. It clinched a semifinal berth for the Challenge Cup. It's just going to be a matter of figuring out which seed they are. Quite frankly, they have one more week remaining in terms of Challenge Cup, but this was the game that essentially got it done for OL Reign. On the Angel City side of things, Kristen Press placed last minute on COVID protocol right before the game. And maybe not the game that had all the goals, because we wondered if there were going to be a couple matches throughout this weekend that were going to have heavy score lines. But this wasn't one of them. Maybe part of that had to do with the fact that there was a Kristen Press missing for Angel City, and OL Reign was coming off of this short rest. When you were looking at this game, though, Lisa, did you think it was going to end this way?
Honestly, no, I did not. Well, we both had in our predictions, we both had OL Reign winning this one. However, when OL Reign scores first, a goal from Bethany Balser, of course, fantastic player doing that. And then Angel City equalizes in the 83rd minute. I honestly thought it was going to end in a draw at that point, right? Because we're at 1-1. There's less than 10 minutes left in the match. And Angel City they changed their game plan in the second half. I mean, first half, it was all OL Reign. It honestly was. I think losing Kristen Press, honestly, that announcement came out right before the match started, changed things a little bit for Angel City. They had to figure out how to adjust without Press and what to do, how to play without her. Having McCaskill in midfield and June Endo, those players still trying to balance their positions on the pitch and where to go, because Endo likes to play more centrally, but that's where McCaskill thrives as well. It's almost like they have two players that want to be the 10 in the midfield, and they can't do that. So second half of this match, after that happened, I think Angel City played a much better second half. They controlled the ball much more. They were able to keep a lot of the possession. The possession actually evened out in the second half as it was going. So the goal that ultimately came from Simone Charlie being assisted by Endo in the 83rd minute, that wasn't surprising at all, because Angel City had built up a momentum to get this goal. I thought it was going to end in a draw at that point, but stoppage time, right? It's all about the stoppage time. 4 minutes of stoppage time. And in the final seconds, OL Reign is able to score, assist from Lauren Barnes, a beautiful ball in from Lawrence Barnes. And then it's Vanderjet, who ends up getting this one. It's her second NWSL start. She started on Thursday, had an assist in that match, and then scores the game-winning goal for OL Reign in this one. Angel City must have been very pleased with their performance. Probably a little disappointed to give up a goal in the final seconds of this match, but pretty pleased with how they're playing against OL Reign, which is the best team in the Challenge Cup right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even in this game, I had the halftime thought when I was watching this match, and again, we all react to things, and I was just tweeting through it like we all do sometimes, and I was like, OL Reign is up right now, and it's going to be a little curious to see what happens in this second half. And I made a reference to the depth that is probably going to come into play for this match. I just felt like Angel City started to turn it on a little bit towards the latter end of that first half and going into the second half. But I just don't think that the team is built right now anyway to be able to just completely steal one on the road against a team like OL Reign. And as we got into the second half, we saw that. We saw, like, despite OL Reign having, the heavy legs, the quick turnaround,
Mhm.
having to tap into player rotation. Really, that's, I think, for me, when we're looking at improvements and areas to point out of improvement this week, we're looking at the expansion sides, right? And we'll talk about San Diego a little later, but in a team like Angel City, we're noticing these very small improvements, right? Even if it's just like a full second half performance, ending a certain type of way versus starting the
Yeah,
way that you did.
that's
But then
growth. That's
it's growth.
huge
It's
growth.
it's it's like the little things that you're gonna look at during the highlight packages, or when you're, in the meeting rooms looking at footage. You're gonna say, okay, here were the improvements from one half to the next. But then for OL Reign, it was their opportunity to show off the depth of their squad, and we see Laura Harvey make these adjustments, right? Having somebody like Jimena Lopez to be able to come in and continue getting active in the attack, right? With somebody like Sofia Huerta, who had already been doing that throughout the duration of the match, and then having this stoppage time goal, the breakthrough that just came in at the very last possible attempt that you could have done it. It was just very, very impressive. So even despite, the shots on target getting leveled out, right, between these two sides,
Mhm.
or, the maybe the disjointed passing a little bit between some players on OL Reign, because of maybe the lack of familiarity or the lack of minutes at this point for some of these players. You saw this was maybe the type of gritty game that we hadn't seen yet from OL Reign. Like, is this a team that is built on tactics, built on finesse, built on fitness, athleticism? We hadn't seen, like, the kind of, you just got to put your head down and grind it out kind of game yet from OL Reign. And I think we saw that
Yes.
this weekend. And again, it's just another thing that's very impressive about this OL Reign side right now.
It really was, and the celebration from Laura Harvey and post-game press conference and her celebrations, if you didn't see it, we put it out on Attacking Third Twitter. Kudos to Sydney, our social media manager. She does a great job with that. But you could tell that this was a full team effort from OL Reign. And honestly, Angel City too. I think that's why this weekend's slate of games was so impressive, because we saw different player rotations, and across the entire Challenge Cup, different players stepping up on different teams. And for Angel City to win the full-time possession battle against OL Reign, 50.2 to Angel City, 49.8 to OL Reign, so that it's 0.2 essentially of percentage of possession that Angel City won. And I think that's something for Angel City to hang their hats on, especially without Kristen Press in this match.
Yeah, it got leveled out a little bit. And I think, that's something that they're going to try to look at as growth, like you mentioned, Lisa. They're going to look at the overall team performance. I'm sure they're going to look at strong individual performances in this one as well. Jasmine Spencer covering a ton of ground out there for Angel City, and doing it from the back line out on the flank. So
Yeah.
there's pieces there, right? But, and then seeing this kind of breakthrough between Endo and Simone Charlie, connecting, to try to make it an interesting game for a little bit at least, right? Brilliant header from Charlie, as well. There's these small moments of flashes that we're seeing, of promise of Angel City, but we'll see if a game like this is what spearheads, a new trajectory for this team, because we know that it's definitely, boosting OL Reign up to where they're trying to be, which is in the semifinals of the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
Our first team to clinch that. Let's take a look at the other match that we're looking at in terms of when we're discussing and breaking down winners and losers. It's Gotham FC versus Washington Spirit. Washington Spirit walking away with the win in this one, 3-1. Now, I think coming into this match, Lisa, we talked a little bit about it. These two teams met prior. Washington Spirit were the hosts in that one, and there was a little bit of banter that took place off of the pitch, spilled on into social media. And I think this was a match that not only we had highlight, but many others had highlight. Like, what's going to be the turnout of this game as you sort of have this attacking duo in the Washington Spirit with Trinity Rodman and Ashley Sanchez going up against, a pretty solid back line in Gotham. It's something that they pride themselves on, and now it's, being led in goal by Ashlyn Harris. And this was some of the banter that we saw amongst these players. And it was looking like maybe Gotham was going to have the better day with a very early goal in this one, but the Spirit coming from behind, which I think is always a very impressive way to win a game. You had a Sanchez free kick, Trinity Rodman collecting a brace, and they did this without any midfielders. Well, they had some midfielders, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give all praises always to the great Andy Sullivan, but no Andy Sullivan in this one, and no
I know.
Dorian. So a lot of active play without maybe the typical staples in the midfield that they were used to. I think another impressive win by another impressive team in this one.
You have to mention that there was essentially no starting midfielders for Washington Spirit. After the match, head coach for the Spirit, Chris Ward, saying that Sullivan and Dorian Bailey could have played, but he wanted to rest them. So interesting move on his part. He's got a lot of faith in the other players that he has on his team, which is a theme for Chris Ward. He knows he has a deep bench. He knows he has a lot of talent, and he was not like scared to use it and scared to do that against Gotham, especially after Naho Kawasumi scores in the opening 4 minutes of this match. That truly was the theme between this weekend slate of NWSL games. Opening minute goals. We saw that, and this team did not disappoint in Gotham getting this one. It was actually a pretty soft goal, I'm gonna say. I mean, it was bounced around. It wasn't struck very hard. It didn't have a lot of pace behind it. It went through traffic, so Kingsbury, Washington Spirit goalkeeper, couldn't see the ball coming, and then it just trickled into the corner of the net. It was placed well all the way towards the far post from Kawasumi, but otherwise, there wasn't anything that special about it. However, in this match, you have to give a lot of credit to Washington Spirit and Sanchez and Rodman because they responded incredibly quick. The 24th minute, Ashley Sanchez, she gets a goal, set piece goal for Sanchez. This was a foul that was drawn just outside the box and a very well struck Ashley Sanchez goal, a set piece goal for her. It was the third of the Challenge Cup. Dabinia had one earlier. I mean, Ekic had one in the Saturday slate, and then Sanchez getting this one in the Sunday slate, and then Rodman responding just before the halftime around the 40th minute of this match, getting another goal, and then Rodman ending up with a brace in this match. It was really fun to watch these two players just vibing together.
Yeah.
You can tell that they play together.
They were having some fun out there.
No, they're having fun, but they play together at club every single weekend and week out. And then over the international break, it's hard to transition from one team to the next with tactics and formations and player personnel. But you can tell that these two are continuing to play with each other. And you can tell that they're friends off the pitch, which helps that relationship on the pitch, especially for these young players that they are professionals and they know that this is their job, but they're also just looking to have fun and play the game. And when you're doing it with your friends, it makes it that much more enjoyable as a player. And you can tell that for sure that that's what's happening. I think Gotham broke down a little bit too towards the end of this one. No Anamano to start the match either, which was an interesting move by head coach Scott Parkinson. But this was a really good match for Washington Spirit. We're seeing all of the pieces come together for them.
You know, you can see it in the body language, right? They were having fun out there in a match like this, but I also like that in a game like this, you had these young attackers for the Spirit kind of have to tap into their soccer IQ, essentially, right? When you don't have somebody like an Andy Sullivan starting alongside you, someone who's able to be this disruptor, but also this connector, this type of linchpin for this Washington Spirit side. How were the Spirit going to try to attack right against this Gotham FC side that has a pretty good back line? Anchor, helped. It's helped and assisted by, the former or the 2021 Defender of the Year and Caprice Didasco, right? Who also had a heavy workload on this day, coming up big at one point down the stretch for her back line and for her goalkeeper. But it just wasn't enough. We saw that despite not having this type of central play that maybe we're sometimes used to seeing from the Spirit, having a player like Rodman out on the wings can still help your team and help punish your opposition. We just saw it was a flurry of activity really out on the wings from either side when we were looking back at some of the tape against with Spirit against Gotham. And it just sort of felt like one of these games where it's just like, okay, so Gotham went up early, but there is far too much soccer left. You're talking about going up in the
Oh,
fourth minute
yeah.
of a game, and you're just kind of like, this is.
It's almost too early.
And we're like, this is gonna get a little more exciting than it is right now in this moment. A great goal, opening goal from Kawasumi, but like you said, Lisa, the transgression of the goals to happen, after that, and I just we're looking at this Washington Spirit side from where they were in week 1 of Challenge Cup to where they are now with a week remaining for Challenge Cup. It's like two completely
Yeah.
different teams. It's like it's almost like they needed to get their footing, just sort of, step out, sort of get refamiliar with each other, maybe shake off a little bit of the championship hangover, right? Say, hey, we got to go. This is who we are. People are going to gun for us. We're the champions. They're going to come and bring their best every single time. And I think a little bit of that, quite frankly, coupled with still more questions from
Yeah.
Gotham, look, I think it's safe to say now, because of the picks that we went through, I had Gotham coming out on top in the East. And you know what? That's not going to happen in the 2022 Challenge Cup. But just a little bit of another game where we saw some struggles for this team in terms of the attack not being able to generate in the way that I think maybe folks out there were anticipating. A lot of activity from Margaret Purse, and we're seeing her and Christy Mewis trying to combine a little bit. And you're talking about first season for these two playing, so there's still some time to develop some chemistry amongst them. But I think you're going to see this Gotham FC side have more questions maybe than they have answers going into the regular season, and hopefully they can find some of those answers a little bit quicker in their regular season to ensure that they, still stay part of the conversation in terms of the 2022 playoff makeup. So that's what we had to talk about in terms of these two matches and in terms of our winner and loser segment.